Alright, what's up everybody? Back with another edition of Everyday Hoops. Hope you guys having a good one. Today is a video we're going to be talking about the NBA coaching carousel because there are a lot of spots right now. There are 5 current coaching spots open in the league and a lot of good teams, not just rebuilding teams. You know, they got some playoff teams, some teams with championship aspirations, and a lot of interviews have gone out. Yeah, I'm just gonna be talking about that because I feel like it's very interesting what's going on right now in the coaching world of the NBA. Thank you guys for the views on the videos and the shorts recently. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the content around here, consider subscribing, turn notifications, all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. Looking at the statistics, only about a little bit less than 1% of you that actually watch the videos are subscribed. So, if you're watching, hit the subscribe. I'd really appreciate it a lot. And let's not waste any more of your time. Let's get right into it. So there are currently 5 head coaching spots open in the NBA. There were 6, but one got filled. The Houston Rockets hired Ime Udoka to be their new coach, which I think is a perfect hire for them. He's a guy that, last year he took the team to the finals in his first year as head coach. What more can you really ask? Rockets team that has been really struggling over the past few years, that's just been at the basement of the NBA, the laughing stock, no real direction or real growth in the past few years since James Harden left. And now they get a coach, Ime Udoka, who can bring some defense to him. What he's been saying about the Rockets, I really like. Using some players like Alperen Sengun, Jabari Smith Jr. in different ways, I think can really maximize who they are. I think he's a coach that is already really well respected, about his defense ability. And yeah, I just really think that was a perfect hire for the Rockets. I think that was the perfect hire for them. I think that's their coach. Really nice for them. But this is more about the 5 teams that do not have coaches right now. These 5 teams are the Detroit Pistons, the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers, Phoenix Suns, and Toronto Raptors. And of those 5 teams, 3 of these teams were in the playoffs, 1 was in the play-in, and 1 was the worst team in the NBA. So a lot of different scales of coaching jobs available right now. All these guys fired the coach. And we're going to get into each 5 of these teams, who candidates are, and who I think could potentially be the good coach for them. Let's start with the Detroit Pistons. I think they're the one that's farthest along on their journey. So Detroit, they finished with the worst record in the league. They won 17 games this season. And they did not fire Dwayne Casey, but Dwayne Casey moved up into a new position. He'll be in the front office now of the Detroit Pistons instead of the head coach, which not surprising. The Pistons have not been great. Dwayne Casey, I feel like, isn't really the right fit for this Detroit Pistons team, this young Pistons team that wants to rebuild. I don't think a young coach would be the best for them. And they're the only team I think that has their final kind of guys out, and people know who their final candidates are. So they announced their final 3 candidates, all 3 head coaches that have never had coaching positions before in the league. They have Jaron Collins, former NBA player and assistant coach with the Pelicans. Charles Lee, a very popular Milwaukee Bucks assistant coach, and then Kevin Ollie, former UConn head coach and coached at Overtime Elite. Those are the 3 finalists. All have never coached in the NBA before, and all these 3 flew to LA to meet with Tom Gores, who's the owner of the Detroit Pistons, and nothing has come out since then. After the final 3 finalists, they've interviewed a lot of people. And there's also a rumor that they offered Monty Williams just a few days ago a huge contract to become their head coach, but Monty declined. Monty apparently wants to coach an already ready playoff team. I'm not going to go from the Phoenix Suns, team that I took to the finals, to the worst team in the league. And now the Pistons want to go with a younger head coach, which I like. I like the idea of going with a younger coach, especially for teams like these that are young, maybe getting a new guy that shows some potential. So they come in and kind of grow with the team and learn with the team as well. The candidates are very solid candidates. I like Charles Lee as a candidate. I think for the past 2 or 3 years, he's been a guy that has been on the radar of a lot of different teams. Of course, coaching under Coach Bud, being assistant coach for finals team, and then with Darvin Ham leaving to be the Laker coach. Now with Charles Lee being the top assistant, I assume that he's probably going to get a coaching job. I think he's probably the best candidate out of all of these candidates Detroit has to become their head coach. Jaron Collins, I just don't know that much about. He's assistant under Willie Green, who was assistant under Monty Williams. So, and he's another former player, so maybe he can do something. And then Kevin Ollie, UConn head coach, was pretty solid there. Left, went to overtime elite. I just don't know how I feel like he would fit in the NBA. I don't know how great that is. If you look at the track record of college coaches to the NBA, it hasn't been amazing. You know, we had a few people here and there, but not amazing. So I think these three are very solid candidates. I really like Charles Lee. I think Charles Lee probably can be the guy for Detroit. I just think he's probably going to be the best option out of these three. Because again, I don't know that much about Jaron Collins. Maybe Jaron Collins can't come in and be solid. I just don't know. And then Kevin Ollie, I'm not really that sold on or sure of how he can come in and translate to the NBA. So for Detroit, I think Charles Lee probably will be the option for them. And I like their kind of direction, you know, of how they're going. And I don't know what is going on with the coaching search. This came out kind of a little bit a while ago. So I don't know. They haven't said anything since like about 2 weeks about their coaching or their finalists, or not about the finalists, but about who's in the lead or anything. So we got to wait and see. So that's Detroit. Now let's go to the Milwaukee Bucks. Championship aspirations. They won a championship just 2 years ago. Last year they lost in the conference finals in second round in 7 games. And this year a very disappointing first round exit, being the best team in the league and losing in the first round. Just insane. Mike Budenholzer is now gone, and it's been reported that they have interviewed a lot of head coaches, and they've kind of narrowed it down. And the three main names of their narrowing down are Nick Nurse, Kenny Atkinson, and Adrian Griffin. I think Nick Nurse, is the obvious kind of candidate. Won an NBA championship back in 2019 with the Raptors. Did a pretty solid job with the Raptors. It was just him, and the Raptors kind of just didn't. It just kind of was like over from it, you know. Like they went for a while, just him and the Raptors' direction didn't really meet eye to eye, and now he's probably one of the top, or maybe potentially the top guy on the market. And of course, with the Milwaukee Bucks having championship aspirations, obviously they want a guy that come in and win a championship. They're not trying to develop a coach. So Nick Nurse, I think, is the top option. I think it makes the most sense. And I think it'd be really funny because Nick Nurse was kind of the guy that kind of exposed the plan how to beat the Bucks back in 2019 when the Raptors beat the Bucks and they built the wall around Giannis. I think he was kind of the main guy to start that. And now it's going to come back full circle and he's going to help Giannis. I just think that would be funny. But I just really like the fit for Nurse in Milwaukee. You know, he's going to have a lot of length. You know, he loves those lineups where the Raptors love those lineups where everyone is 6'7" with 7'3" wingspans. He's got Giannis, Brook Lopez. He's got Drew Holiday. He's got defense around him, which I really like. And he's got a lot more depth in Toronto. The last few years, they didn't really have depth. They literally were just going 6-man, 7 men deep throughout the entire season, which is not good. But now they have depth. And he just brings a winning mentality, and he's a really good coach. You know, he really brings a championship kind of mentality to this team that the Bucks really need, and just a new voice I think the Bucks will listen to and respect. The other two candidates, Kenny Atkinson, very interesting. Kenny Atkinson, former Brooklyn Net coach, was assistant when the Golden State Warriors won a championship with them. He was actually last year supposed to be the new coach of the Charlotte Hornets until backing out at the last minute, going back to the Warriors, and now he potentially could be on the move going to Milwaukee. I think Kenny Atkinson did a really good job in Brooklyn, taking that team from the gutter of the NBA again to being a playoff team. It was just he kind of got kicked out because then the Nets brought in KD and Kyrie, and you know all that happened. But I think Kenny Atkinson's a very solid coach. He's been an assistant all around the league. I think he was with the Clippers, now he's with the Warriors. I think I forget where he was before he joined the Nets as the head coach. But I really like Kenny Atkinson. Very interesting to see him in the Bucks. I would have thought he would have been good for a team maybe like the Raptors or something like that. A team that's like trying to make a playoff push, not a team that's already in there and trying to win a championship. I don't know if Kenny Atkinson's a championship level coach. He's won as an assistant though, so maybe, you know, you never know. So that's interesting. And then Adrian Griffin being the third candidate is very interesting as well. The Toronto Raptors assistant. He's coached a few games, or Nick Nurse has kind of let him coach a few games, and I think he's very solid. I don't know about him as the Milwaukee Bucks head coach, but it's very interesting to see Adrian Griffin in that name. But I think Nick Nurse could be the guy. I've heard Monty Williams as well. I really would like Monty Williams in there with the fit with the Bucks as well. But I don't know. I just think Nick Nurse in Milwaukee just makes the most sense to me for some reason. I just think I can see Nick Nurse in Milwaukee. And I think that should be the guy the Bucks should get, Nick Nurse. Next for the Philadelphia 76ers, they have fired Doc Rivers after losing another second round series. They're up 3-2 on Boston. They lose game 6 and get embarrassed in game 7. Doc Rivers is on his way out. And now the 76ers are in a very weird spot, with James Harden being a free agent. So we got to see how that goes. If he goes to Houston or if he comes back to Philly, that changes a lot of things. But the Sixers are kind of not that far along in the process. They have a couple names or guys that are expected to take a look at and guys they've interviewed already. Nick Nurse is set to come in for an interview for Philly. Monty Williams and Mike Budenholzer are both, and Mike D'Antoni, all three names that have been looked at. Frank Vogel has come in to be looked at for an interview, and then their assistant Sam Cassell. So they have a lot of names on here. They haven't gone down to any finalists, or I don't even know if they've interviewed all these people. But Nick Nurse and Frank Vogel, I think, are the top two guys, and Sam Cassell in there as well. Looking at the names, I mean, obviously they want guys that are ready to win now, because that's what Philly is currently in. Philly's currently in position of, we got to make it to the conference finals, because we haven't done that in 20 years. And they have the names. They got Nick Nurse, the Monty Williams, the Budenholzers, the guys that have made it far, the guys that have made it to the finals, Frank Vogel, guys like that. Sam Cassell, I think, has been a guy that's been on the radar for a while for head coaching, so him. And then Mike D'Antoni is a very interesting name, especially with the way he plays and the relationship he has with Daryl Morey and James Harden. I feel like the Sixers are just bringing in everyone that used to play for the Houston Rockets, everyone used to be a part of the Rockets organization, to come in and take over the Sixers. Just going to be like the Philadelphia Rockets at this point, basically, if they hire Mike D'Antoni, which I really doubt that he's going to be a head coach next season. But for Philly, I like the names. Guys I can see Frank Vogel, honestly, being in there. Like, I think Frank Vogel is a really good candidate for the 76ers. Defensively, he's a really good coach. You saw what he did with the Lakers back in 2020 when they won the championship. You saw what he did with the Indiana Pacers, his most famous coaching job with the Paul George Indiana Pacers. I just really like what he's done. Defensively, the Sixers are a very solid defense, but I think he could maybe take them to another level, potentially, especially with how Joel Embiid performed defensively this season and especially in the playoffs. I like him doing that. And then he's used to having, star players that he can or multiple stars, I guess, and knows how to play everybody team basketball. You look at Indiana when he had the Paul George, the George Hill, David West. He knew how to kind of formulate that and have everyone kind of get involved. Look at what he did with the Lakers when he had LeBron and AD, obviously. But then he had so many other guys contributing, like Alex Caruso, the Danny Greens, the Kyle Kuzma, kind of found a way to kind of thrive a little bit as well. I don't know. I could just envision, when I'm envisioning the Philadelphia 76ers coach and these guys as coaches with their team, I think Frank Vogel is the one I envision the most, and I think he's a good candidate for this job for the 76ers. I don't know. Just something about Frank Vogel and Philly, I feel like that can work together. Frank Vogel can really help this team out. Next candidate out there for the Phoenix Suns. The Suns fired Monty Williams, which I personally still don't agree with that they fired him. But after they made the finals back in 2021, in the last 2 years they've lost in the second round embarrassingly. Lost by they were down by 30 at halftime in back-to-back years in elimination games at home in the second round. And Monty Williams is out. That's also because Matt Ishbia, the new owner, is in there, and he wants to put his own mark on there. The Suns have Devin Booker and Kevin Durant. They have championship aspirations. And they have a lot of candidates out there. Not down to any finals yet. They're just starting to interview guys. It was reported by Shams about a few days ago that the 5 finalists, quote-unquote, for the head coaching job are Nick Nurse, Frank Vogel, Doc Rivers, Jordy Fernandez, Kings assistant coach, and their own assistant, Kevin Young. And then Chris Haynes also added that there are two more guys that are going to be interviewed, Kenny Atkinson and Charles Lee, the Bucks assistant coach. A lot of guys out there, a lot of names. And looking at these names, I mean, Nick Nurse is the obvious, probably top coach on the market right now. Frank Vogel, obviously, I think will be very solid in Phoenix as well. I think Frank Vogel will be a head coach next year, or at least an assistant. He'll be back in the coaching world next year, I feel like. And then Doc Rivers, I'm not very sure about Doc Rivers being in Phoenix as the head coach. I don't know. But honestly, the guy that I think to me that I really kind of like, I like Kevin Young for this job. The Suns, their assistant coach. I don't know. I just got a feeling that he can be a guy that can come in and help this team. He's already been around the team. He already knows the personalities of Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and, well, if they're on the team next year, learning about KD, knows the potential, knows the personalities of the guys on the bench, which is a big plus. So he doesn't have to deal with that of kind of guys respecting him or learning about different guys. He's already been kind of familiar and around the team. And I think he could come in, and I think he maybe sees what Monty did and sees the tweaks that he can make here and there, kind of brainstorming the tweaks that he can make, a little bit here and there, and the things he can do. I don't know. I just think I like that for the Phoenix Suns. Especially with the other guys on the market being guys like Doc Rivers and Mike Budenholzer, guys that do have a championship but not the best at maybe adjustments and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think Kevin Young giving a new guy a try that's already been in your organization, I think is a good thing for the Suns, which is why I was very surprised that if Charles Lee wasn't a finalist for the Bucks head coaching job, because I feel like that would have been a great candidate for the Bucks. But now the Suns have Kevin Young, their assistant coach, and I feel like he can be their next coach. I would like that for the Suns. But then again, you got to take into account that it's Matt Ishba, new ownership. He didn't hire Monty Williams or Kevin Young or any of them. So I won't be surprised if they maybe go get a Frank Vogel or something like that. But I think Kevin Young would be the guy for me. And now finally we have the Toronto Raptors head coach, Nick Nurse. The top guy on the market is out after the Raptors missed out on the playoffs. Just a lot of stuff going on with the Raptors this entire year. And both Nick Nurse and the management just didn't really see eye to eye. And now he has gone. Now the Raptors have a lot of guys on their coach. They have not narrowed it down. They're probably the farthest away from finding their head coach. Reports came out. They said they're going to take their time, and they're not going to rush in anything. They've interviewed a lot of people. A lot of names have been on the market. Some guys. The latest one is Steve Nash, former Brooklyn Nets coach, has been a guy on the Raptors' radar. JJ Redick was a potential guy that the Raptors were trying to interview. Their assistant coach, Adrian Griffin, who's a finalist for the Bucks job. Becky Hammond was a name that was thrown out, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think Becky Hammond kind of said, I want to stay with the WNBA, and she's killing it, by the way, with the Aces. They just won the championship. She's getting paid a lot, so I think she's good where she's at. And, yeah, there's a lot of guys, on the radar for the Toronto Raptors. A lot of assistant coaches. It's a lot of names. And the Raptors are probably farthest away. I have no idea what the Raptors are going to even be like next season. Because now with Nick Nurse gone and with some of their key guys being free agents, it's kind of expected that maybe the Raptors are going to go into a rebuild. Masai Ujiri came out after the season and said, they still... And I think there's a part I even saw a few days ago. The Raptors still don't really have a clue, don't have an idea of where they're really going. So the Raptors are kind of just in this weird kind of age of like, what do we do? Do we continue to... Should we get a veteran head coach to try to build this team up and keep going to the playoffs? Or should we just rebuild it? Which I think they should just rebuild it. Fred VanVleet's going to be a free agent. He's getting older. He did not have a great year last year, so he might be gone. Gary Trent Jr. is a free agent. OG Anunoby's very high value right now. A lot of teams love OG Anunoby. Pascal even could be in a mix for a team like the Portland Trailblazers, and you could get back a really good return for him. So I think the Raptors just rebuild. I don't know if they're in that stage of committing to it yet, and that really changes the coaching decision, obviously, because if they want to keep going to the playoffs and stuff, they want a coach that has some experience. They want a veteran kind of coach. But if they're going in rebuild mode, maybe they could take a chance on a Steve Nash or a guy like that to give him an opportunity, or Adrian Griffin to give him a chance. I don't know. So I don't really have a name for the Toronto Raptors or a guy that I think should be the guy for the Raptors because I don't know what direction they're gonna go into, and they don't have finalists yet. They have like 30 coaches that they're trying to interview, so I have no idea who they like or anything like that. So we just gotta wait and see for the Toronto Raptors. But for everyone else, a little recap for the Pistons. I think Charles Lee. The Bucks, Nick Nurse. For the Sixers, Frank Vogel. And for the Suns, Kevin Young, their assistant. Those are my kind of prediction, not kind of predictions, I would guess. Predictions for who could be the head coach next year, but who knows what happens, man. Probably none of this is going to be right, but who knows. Yeah, that's it for today. Hope you guys enjoyed. Once again, if you do the content around here, consider subscribing, like, turn notifications, all stuff like that. I'd really appreciate it. It really helps out a lot. And I'll see you guys tomorrow.